Hello again and welcome. In this video, the different limiting infixes used in ETH will be explained. There are 5 types of limiters. These are number, person, plurals, and association. The first group of limiters can be used with any part of speech. The number limiters are the root letters oi, og, ok, or, och, on, oj, och, os, osh, and ol, and they are used to describe amounts of a noun, number of times or order when a verb happens, and degree of a detailer. When oi is used, it establishes a quantity of 0 and no intensity, og a quantity of 1, ok establishes a quantity of 2, or is used to establish a quantity of 3, och is used to establish a quantity of 4, the letter on is used to establish a quantity of 5, the letter oj is used to establish a quantity of 6, the letter och is used to establish a quantity of 7, the letter os is used to establish a quantity of 8, the letter osh is used to establish a quantity of 9, the letter ol is used to establish a quantity of 10 and maximum intensity. The next set of infixes are the person limiters. These are grouped by either inert or sentient and are used as pronouns, ownership of a noun, affected person of a verb, and characterization of a detailer. The inert limiters are the root letters fi, po, and ma. The limiter fi, meaning different, is used to establish possession to an inanimate object being directly referenced. And the letter po, meaning same, is used to establish possession of an inanimate object being indirectly owned. And the root letter ma, meaning perspective, is used to establish possession to an object being indirectly referenced. The next set are the sentient limiters, and these are the letters da, la, ra, ri, ro, ka, 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 and ki. Da, meaning head, is used to establish a pronoun of being the leader of a group of individuals. La, meaning tail, is used to establish the pronoun of being a follower of a group. The limiter ra, which means God, is used to establish a possession belonging to everyone. The letter ri, which means me, is used to establish possession by the speaker. The letter ro, meaning ye, is used to establish possession by the person being spoken to. The letter ka, which means he, is used to establish possession by a person being indirectly referenced. The limiter ka, meaning we, is used to establish possession by both the speaker and the listener. The letter ka, meaning subjective, is used to establish possession by a group being directly referenced. And lastly, the limiter ke is used to establish possession by a group being indirectly referenced. The next set are the plural limiters, and these are used to limit a word to a generalized amount. They are we, fa, fa, pa, and pa. We, meaning quantity, is used to describe a numerous amount. The limiter fa, which means only, is used to establish something as being the only of its kind. The fa limiter is used to establish something as being part of something else. Pa, meaning every, is used to pluralize a word to be all of its kind. And lastly, pa, meaning any, is used to pluralize a word to be any one of its kind. And the associators are used to connect different statements together. They are ath, as, og, ma, ba, and ba. When ath, which means near, is used as a limiter, it establishes the beginning of an answer. The limiter as, which means far, is used to establish the end of a question and the end of a substatement. Og is used to establish the beginning of a question and the beginning of a substatement. The ma limiter, which means chaotic, is used to add an amendment to the previous question or substatement. Ba, which means last, is used to associate the next statement with a previous statement. And the final limiter ba is used to direct a statement to the next statement. The following are some examples of words that use limiting infixes. The first of these involve nouns, verbs, or detailers. So starting with the word all, which means fire, and then by adding the limiter oi, which means 0, the word becomes fireless, such as without a fire or having no intensity. If og is added, the word becomes a single fire or a very low level fire. Ok can be used to describe 2 fires or a second degree fire, or can be used to describe 3 fires or a third degree fire. Adding och makes the word aloch, which means 4 fires or a 4 degree fire. Adding the letter on, the word becomes alone and means 5 fires. By adding the limiter oj, the word becomes aloj and means 6 fires. And by adding the limiter och, the word becomes aloch and means 7 fires. Adding o's, the word becomes aloz and means 8 fires or an 8th level fire. Adding osh, the word becomes alosh and means 9 fires or a 9 degree fire. And finally, adding the letter ol, the word becomes alol and means 10 fires or a 10 degree fire. The next example is of limiters that can be used with inanimate objects. So starting with og, which has a meaning of rock, the limiter fe, that has a meaning of different, can be added to the word so that it becomes ojfa, which means that rock. And if pa, meaning same, is added, the word becomes ojpa and means this rock. And if ma, which means perspective, is added, the word becomes ojma and means the rock that it is. The next set of examples deal with the limiters used for describing sentient things. The first example uses the word chama, which is a combination of destroy and perspective, and means warrior. If da is added, the word becomes chamada and means a commander of warriors. If the limiter la, which means tail, is added, the word becomes chamala and means a follower of a commander. And then by beginning with the root word ja, which means want, and adding the word ra as a limiter, the word becomes jara and means everyone wants. If re, meaning me, is added as a limiter, the word becomes jare and means I want. If ro, meaning you, is added as a limiter, the word becomes jaro and means you want. If ka, meaning he, is added, the word becomes jaka and means he wants. If ka, meaning we, is added as the limiter, the word becomes jaka and means we both want. And if ka, meaning subjective, is added, the word becomes jaka and means all of us want. And if ke, which means objective, is added, the word becomes jake and means others want. For the limiters that can be combined with a noun or a verb, the example oruch will be used. Oruch is a combination of tri and area. Its meaning is triangle, and by adding the limiter we, which means quantity, the word becomes oruchui and means an undefined number of triangles. If fa, meaning only, is used, the word becomes oruchfa and has a meaning of the only triangle ever. And if the root fa, which means fraction, is used, the word becomes oruchfa and means part of the only triangle ever. If fa, meaning every, is used, the word becomes oruchpa and means every triangle. And then finally, if the limiter pa, which means any, is used, the word becomes oruchpa and has a meaning of any triangle. For the connector limiters, the following sentences will be used as examples. The sentence Gafag ayam mig gafas, which means when was the starting time, uses the limiter og, which means beyond, in conjunction with gaaf, meaning when, as the beginning of the question, and the limiter as, which means far, is used in conjunction with gaaf as the end of the question. The sentence gaaf ma alishag gaafas, which means and from the beginning, uses the limiter ma, which means prism, to begin an amendment to the question, and then once again ends the question with the limiter as, which means far, in combination with gaaf. The answer to this question could be Gatha ayakbo gathas, which means when 4 years ago was. In this sentence, the limiter a meaning near, is used in conjunction with the question word gaf to establish an answer statement. And once again, as is used to verify that the statement has gone farther than the question or answer. The limiter ba, meaning next, is used in the statement abof koba bivaj, which means at the statue. The word koba, which is a combination of space and next, uses the limiter ba to express that the statement is directed at the next noun. And the last example uses the sentence koba ofre ayig, which means the statue where I was. In this sentence, the word koba, which is a combination of space and last, refers the listener back to a previous noun that was used during a previous statement. And in this context would be the statue from the previous example. Those are limiters that ETIAS uses for infixing. In the next video, the different augmenting affixes will be described. Thank you.